he starts by saying, "Go Hawks!"
Yeah.
So when did you think I graduated from the University of Iowa? It's a test question. It's in the paper. So I got my MBA in 1988. That makes it a quarter of a century back. And so I was telling Amanda and Ali that they gave us a set of questions to answer, and I was going through it, and I said, "Oh my God, I need to feel like 20 again, in order to make this kind of remark." So as I was introduced, I started this nonprofit called Cartha in 2006. So it's still a very, very early kind of organizational perspective. But we build academic practitioner networks, and now they span about 5 continents and 3 generations. So it's very interdisciplinary, very intergenerational. The reason I use the word global as a global good is we have humanitarian needs and humanitarian partnerships going on at all levels in all countries of the world. I wish they weren't, that wasn't the need. Seriously, if we could govern the world so that that kind of inequity didn't arise, we'd all be better off. However, those inequities exist, so what can we do about it? So how did I start on this, and what am I doing about it? My sort of background really arises in a very non-typical fashion. I was very good at academics. I grew up in New Delhi and Mumbai in India. I wanted to become a physician. But my parents were under pressure to marry me off real fast. So I got an arranged marriage at age 20 and came to the US in 1985 to join my husband, who was doing his PhD at Columbia University at that time. Would you kindly come here? Otherwise I have to actually tilt my neck. Thank you. And so I arrived 1985. How many people are in my professional network, do you think? Seriously, take a guess. 0. I would actually put it at less than 0. Because even though, I could speak, I was fluent in English, culturally, dress-wise, there was definitely not too good of a fit. But in any case, my husband's first position as a business school professor is at the University of Iowa, so we land here in the fall of 1986. I was always interested in volunteering, so I said, I need to meet new people. I'm a very friendly person, I want to meet new people. So here I am, I started volunteering at the Iowa City Public Library. And I used to film the children's programs and do book shelving. But what did that teach me? My God, I was learning what people in Iowa City are reading. So among those books that are reshelving, I said, wow, let me look at the titles and read those myself. So you can learn about cultural perspectives in very different ways, no matter where you are, which country you are, or what you're doing. In any case, I then actually got my master's in business administration over the next 2 years, so I graduated in December 1988. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I had my first baby 2 weeks after graduation. So I was in no rush to look for a full-time job. But at that time, there wasn't anything on morning track. Okay, this was way, way before. So I go and talk to a lot of people and say, I would like a part-time job because I have a baby. They look at me, what are you talking about? So anyway, that's how my career began. I started my own consulting company, started doing small business plans and marketing plans for local companies. I would go, present myself, do some things through the Small Business Development Center. But the most important thing for me was I wanted a meaningful opportunity to learn about the culture, about business practices here, about what do people do in their lives. So, and this was because, I mean, my husband was well employed. I mean, we didn't actually need the money as such. So I had the ability to go out there and find something meaningful to do. So 3 years later, I ended up doing a consulting project. The guy who I did it for loves it. Calls me in a couple of months and says, would you like to join the University of Iowa in the Research Foundation and be my right-hand person to manage this unit? And I'm saying, well, I don't even understand what this unit does. I mean, can you tell me a little bit? So just come in, you know. And I said, I insist I can only do part-time. Right? Fool. I mean, I said, I still have a baby. So anyway, that's how my life began. But very soon, I actually made a fabulous career out of that little tiny opportunity. So one thing that I would like youngsters like you to note is that you have to work really hard no matter what. Doesn't matter what job you're at, do your very best, be diligent, be smart, make contact networks. So this was actually a job to manage the University of Iowa inventions that are produced by scientists. And those inventions have to be filed sometimes as patents, and deals are made with companies because we have a large medical facility. Our inventions were based on human biotechnology. So this was the modern biotech revolution going on in the 1990s, and I found myself in the middle of it. So I was learning not only about the science, but also about business licensing practices, about patent law, about federal funding guidelines. So I ended up working for the Vice President for Research Office at the University of Iowa, and spent nearly, actually 15 years. And I left the university in 2005 as Director of Corporate Partnerships. I did a lot of really cool things. And so the story actually arc changes around 2002. And this you will also experience. You will start out with something. And I bet Rhonda and Yashir, I predict today, if you go 10 years later, you might be doing so many different things, right? It would be interesting to have you make the presentation 10 or like me, 20 years later. And what would you say, right? So in any case, in 2002, I happened to be in San Diego at a professional society meeting and heard this really inspiring speech. And that's when it was presented that academic technology managers or innovation managers like me ought to look into global health as a topic. We hadn't really thought about it much professionally. So I got really passionate about it. Within a year, my contact networks really around the world started growing because I just said I'm interested in this, and that's it. I was picked up as this huge candidate to be trained. And within a year, I founded a group called Technology Managers for Global Health. And professional volunteers from my network started pouring in. And within the first year, when we had to run a meeting, there were 45 people, much like in this room. And all I said was, I don't know much about global health. Do you guys know? And they said, no. I said, can we all invest maybe 2% of our daily time thinking about this? Because maybe we might make a difference. And they all said, yeah, I sign up. So luckily for me, there was a program officer from the Rockefeller Foundation in that room that day. And immediately they said, we would like to support you. So I got my first seed grant from the Rockefeller Foundation for $50,000. Started traveling around the world, talking about the vision for how academic research translation could be also focused towards humanitarian licensing prospects. So anyways, that led to a whole bunch of new things for me. I got a second grant from the Rockefeller Foundation in a year for $200,000. and also grants from the Kaufman Foundation and the Gates Foundation. I got affiliated with a British charity in Oxford, England. Traveled a lot. And in 2006, pretty much decided that I would start my own nonprofit because there were gaps in the system that needed to be addressed. I was arguing that in addition to scientists, physicians, and lawyers, we needed documentary producers, writers, and artists to help us reach into the hearts and minds of people. That's where we need to make the changes happen. So that's what Cartha does actually. I mean, I get to work with like really, really fabulous, fascinating people. I don't travel that much these days. I've actually managed to learn to be a very efficient armchair humanitarian. And what do I mean by that? As our networks grow, so these are people from different universities or nonprofits around the world. I want them to succeed. I want them to tell me what is the local need that exists. And I want them to go do it. I'm not interested in going all the time, traveling. So with new communication technologies, I have Skype calls with people in Accra, Ghana one day, next day in Hyderabad, India. I mean, this is like actually pretty cool for me. And then, much like Rhonda and Yasha were saying, Iowa City is actually a very cool place. There are a lot of people passing through, and even like, the diaspora people who have come in. They're really interesting people to work with. So, I'm going to stop there so that you guys ask me some questions about what I actually do. Because I do want you to kind of, tell me what you think about kind of my lifestyle, right? Because I'm doing it as a volunteer. So why do something like this? So if ever you want to leave this room, there's homework for you. And I'm glad somebody wrote it on the board. So are there any internships in the organization? I don't think so, but we've had student interns. Are there volunteering positions in the organization? I don't think so. But we have lots of volunteers. So we don't actively recruit volunteers. We don't actively recruit interns. Something has to click in the system. So there's a lot of self-governance, self-identification of volunteers. You have to show the leadership. I'm not the one who's the leader. In fact, there was mentorship talked about. We don't say mentor-mentee at all. So for example, on some of my projects, I need people, younger people who are very tech-savvy, which I am not. They have to mentor me. So it goes both ways. So the only two things that we ask of potential people interested, and Glenn Martin, who's a new volunteer, he's a UI graduate from linguistics and Russian from last year. I ran into Glenn at one of the speeches I gave at the Multicultural Business Students Association at the university. So the only thing is, you have to write a couple of lines about what are your aspirations for humanity. I am not asking about what you have done in your past. I'm not asking about your ambitions for the future. Just plain question, what are your aspirations for humanity? Many of us never get asked that question throughout our life. And I'm saying, why not? So, you write that, and you say, why would you like to affiliate yourself with a non-profit like Cartha? Go check out, it's cartha.org. See whether it makes or creates meaning for you. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I can tell you. If you're a straightforward linear thinker, this won't work. If you want very structured existence, this won't work. I think about my life with Cartha 24/7 or more.